I'm a bit concerned about whether the people that would be going to see it, whether they'd be aware, well, they would be aware it's not Amy, but that there'd be no sort of human element to it.
I am doing it for the money. I am doing it for the money.
Well, I wasn't working, so I didn't see them a lot. They just kind of stepped in and thought they were being the good guys by just stepping in and strong-arming me into a rehabilitation centre, but just didn't really need it.
Amy Winehouse, the voice of a generation. For which generation? The generation of today, with its electronic melodies and auto-tuned voices, or the generation of jazzy blues that conjures up images of smoky underground bars and piano players with words beyond her years? Echoing musical eras of the past, Amy Winehouse was a deep, soulful siren in a sea of light, frothy pop stars. Her dark, sultry voice seemed to come from the very depths of her being. She eclipsed what had become the norm for female vocals and exploded onto the music scene less like a breath of fresh air and more like a firework. Regardless of your taste in music, it's hard to disagree that Amy Winehouse was a modern music icon. Even to this day, her name is still one of the most recognizable in British music culture. Her life, music, and career seemed more synonymous with Shakespearean tragedy than a mere news tabloid. With loves and losses, soaring heights, and desperate lows inspiring music and shattering tragedy, the story of Amy Winehouse's rise and fall from fame will be forever etched in the annals of music history. This vivacious, talented singer, who rose from obscurity on her own merits to become an international star, dominating the jazz, pop, soul, and R&B tones, rose. The story of her destructive relationships and dangerous addictions, how the struggles led her to an untimely demise. Like many troubled artists before her, it was those very struggles that both served as the inspiration for her genius and yet were the catalyst for her fall from grace. Amy Jade Winehouse was born on September 14, 1983, in Southgate, England, into a close-knit Jewish family with deep musical roots. Her parents, Mitch and Janice Winehouse, played a significant role in shaping her early life, even if they were initially unaware of the magnitude of the talent their daughter possessed. Her father, Mitch, worked as a panel beater and later as a taxi driver, but his passion for music was a constant presence in the household. He often serenaded Amy and her older brother Alex with Frank Sinatra songs, instilling in Amy an early appreciation for the classics. This love for music wasn't confined to just her immediate family. It was a trait that ran deep on both sides of her lineage. Mitch's influence on Amy was profound, and she later recalled how Sinatra's music became intertwined with her childhood memories. She remembered how her father's renditions of songs like "Fly Me to the Moon" or "You Go to My Head" were so ingrained in her that when she finally heard Sinatra's versions, the lyrics were already familiar. "I remember so many Sinatra songs I knew before I'd even heard Sinatra sing them, because my dad always used to sing. He was always singing songs like "You Go to My Head." The first time I ever heard Frank sing "You Go to My Head," I knew every word, 'cause that was my dad's song, you know," Amy once reflected. This deep connection to music through her father became one of the foundational elements of her life, shaping her future career in ways that her family could never have anticipated. Amy's mother, Janice, was a pharmacist, a career far removed from the world of music, yet she too supported her daughter's burgeoning interest in jazz. The blend of her father's love for Sinatra and the musical talents present on her mother's side of the family created a unique environment that fostered Amy's natural abilities. Janice's family had its own share of musical talent. Amy's uncles on her mother's side were professional jazz musicians, and the influence of jazz was a significant part of Amy's upbringing. These uncles, with their rich experiences and deep connections to the world of jazz, undoubtedly left a lasting impression on Amy, further solidifying her affinity for the genre that would later define her career. Moreover, Amy's paternal grandmother, Cynthia, was herself a singer who had once dated the famous jazz saxophonist Ronnie Scott. This connection to the jazz world through her grandmother added another layer to Amy's musical heritage. Cynthia's stories and experiences, coupled with the musical atmosphere at home, provided Amy with a rich tapestry of influences that would later manifest in her own unique style. Her grandmother's tales of the jazz scene, coupled with her father's love for Sinatra, created a potent mix of inspiration that Amy absorbed from a very young age. From a young age, Amy's inclination towards music was evident. Despite the typical challenges of childhood and adolescence, she was always drawn back to the melodies and rhythms that surrounded her. Her parents, recognizing this early on, did their best to nurture her interest. It wasn't just about formal lessons or structured learning. It was the informal, everyday exposure to music that made the most significant impact. Amy would often sing when she was in trouble at school, and "Fly Me to the Moon" became her go-to song, a melody that not only soothed her, but also hinted at the vast potential that lay within her. Her father's constant singing and the musical environment created by her extended family were not just background noise in Amy's life. They were the soundtrack to her formative years. This rich musical upbringing laid the groundwork for her future career, embedding in her a deep love for jazz and the classics. Even as a child, she was already a repository of songs and lyrics, absorbing the music around her like a sponge. This early exposure to music, coupled with the support of her family, was crucial in shaping the artist she would later become. As Amy grew, so did her diverse taste in music, as she started listening to anything from gospel to R&B and hip-hop, exploring her vocal range. At the age of 10, she was drawn to listen to American R&B and hip-hop acts including TLC and Salt and Peppa, so much so that she founded a short-lived amateur rap group called Sweet and Sour. At the age of 12, Amy secretly applied to and won a scholarship to the Sylvia Young Theatre School, the School of Performing Arts, with her unique rendition of "On the Sunny Side of the Street" by Lily Armstrong. She did the scholarship auditions and she sang, and she really blew us away. I think she sang "On the Sunny Side of the Street," and I thought, we've got the new Judy Garland here, and she was so melodic, the voice was so good on the ear, and she was only about 12 and a half at the time. Amy had not had a single singing lesson prior to her audition, and it was fast becoming quite clear that her talent was something extraordinary, and people were beginning to sit up and take notice. Later, after years of playing with her brother's guitars, Amy received her very first guitar at 13, and displaying her initiative and talent again. It's hers. She taught herself how to play her guitar, which became another musical outlet for her as she progressed. She began songwriting as well, which she proved to be naturally skilled at. Around the age of 15, she started to become quite rebellious and independent, piercing her nose, getting tattoos, then allegedly being expelled from the Sylvia Young Theatre School, though both her father and Sylvia Young herself deny this. At 16, young Amy Winehouse began her professional career. She sought out bars and clubs that would allow her to perform and started recording demos with her own music lyrics and vocals. It was at this tender age that Amy's best friend, pop singer Tyler James, passed the demo tape of her on to his record label A&R, and it was more obvious than ever that Amy was not just another girl with a love for jazz. Amy was destined for great things. After the demo, Amy was signed to Simon Fuller's, the creator of the Idol franchise, and initial manager of the Spice Girls, label 19 management in 2002, and paid €250 a week against future earnings, of course. But for Amy, this was bona fide recognition of her talent and skills, and her meteoric rise to superstardom. In October 2003, at just 19 years of age, Amy recruited her heavily jazzy-influenced debut album, Frank, on Island Records, titled in honor of her idol, the one and only Frank Sinatra. Every song was co-written by herself and sold over 1 million copies in England alone, reaching platinum sell status and later declared triple platinum by the British phonographic industry. Frank was also nominated in the Brit Awards categories for British Female Solo Artist and British Urban Act. Amy had just hit big time, and she wasn't slowing down. Her sound was evolving, and so was her musical focus and image. Previously, jazz had been the main influence for her sound, but Amy was now gravitating towards 50s and 60s girl groups, which truly resonated through her changing sound and visually through her look, channeling the beehive hairdo that was made popular in the 60s in the white cat-eye makeup. And we created a persona and was becoming a recognizable force to be reckoned with. But as her fame grew, so did her turmoil, which coincided with a chance meeting in 2005, when Amy met a music video assistant named Blake Fielder Civil at a bar in Camden. Despite Blake already being spoken for, Things later changed for them both. Within Amy and Me had his name tattooed on her neck, and he became a huge part of her life, and even a bigger influence on her music, with a final impact nobody could have foreseen coming. 2005 was also the beginning of a turbulent cycle of self-harm, drug and alcohol abuse, and sudden weight loss for Amy. But it wasn't particularly noted by anyone close to her, as most put her weight loss and erratic behaviors down to stress and pressure of creating, releasing, and subsequently promoting her absolute breakthrough album, Back to Black. In October 2006, Amy completed the critically acclaimed 11-track album in just 5 months and began her Back to Black tour almost immediately. Strangely enough, the biggest hit, single Rehab, from Back to Black, was inspired by her management company, who had recommended that she attend rehab to deal with what they could see was becoming a very real problem with alcohol. Rather than dealing with her growing addiction problems, Amy continued on as she had been. Back to Black climbed to the #1 album spot on the UK album charts in January 2007. It stayed for 2 straight weeks, only to return for a further few weeks later in February, then becoming the best-selling album in England, selling 1.8 million copies. I Guarantee magazine naming Rehab the best song of 2007. This album was the most successful American debut by a British female artist in history. Back to Black stayed in the top 10 for several months and began to climb the charts internationally. In April of 2007, Amy and Blake were engaged, unknown to her family and friends. Blake had been the first to introduce Amy to hard drugs, specifically heroin, and had shown her how to use it. Her addiction grew, though Blake claimed that while they used drugs together, his addiction worsened when they were separated. The relationship was a vicious cycle of drugs, alcohol, and physical abuse. But it came clear to all that there was more going on beneath the surface and first saw, and that the anti-sip she had been thrust into was taking a toll. Her family strongly believed that losing her grandmother Cynthia had been a catalyst and triggered the darker side of Amy. A tattoo of her grandmother's name on her arm, a constant reminder for laws. But others believed that Blake Fielder's Civil was the beginning of the unraveling of Amy Winehouse. With a metal and Rolling Stone at that time, all the songs are about the state of my relationship with Blake. Things started to take a toll, and Amy counseled a number of shows across Europe and England, claiming exhaustion, poor health, as she didn't want to perform unless she was 100% wanting to be there. But it seemed that her addiction was finally coming to life. It was then reported on August 8 that she had succumbed to an intense multi-drug overdose. Czech collapse, had been rushed to the hospital in the early hours of the morning, semi-conscious, resulting in having to have her stomach pumped due to the cocktail she had ingested of heroin, ketamine, ecstasy, cocaine, whiskey, and vodka. 23-year-old, so she's one of her talents, but the singer Amy Winehouse has canceled yet more gigs, this time in Norway, after she was admitted to hospital. A record company say it was just down to severe exhaustion. Specification was rife that Amy had many issues deeper than the one she seemed to be dealing with in her songs and apparently in her marriage. And from here, it seemed there was only one place for Amy to go. But for Amy, she was not ready to be dealing with the reality of her addiction just yet. Going On started new tour with 17 shows, and schedule starting rehab is great for some people but not others. She says her self-destructive behavior was constantly in the tabloids. In a May 2008, she was declared the second most hated personality in England. Despite being voted the second greatest heroine in England the previous month, she spent time in a London hospital being treated for severe exhaustion before she and husband Blake entered a rehab. Her father was accorded as stating he was so very proud of the pair of them and the way they have handled this very difficult situation. Her spiral into addiction began impacting her professionally as well. Amy continued to act as though nothing was wrong and went on promoting her album, releasing a special deluxe edition of Back to Black in November 2007. Her debut DVD, Amy Winehouse, The Girl Done Good, postpones any tours and appearances, she could shirring that her doctor stated she was to take a break. Bad luck seemed to follow the star when anonymous police tipped off while Norway saw a law enforcement storm into a hotel room immersion and arrest her. She was later released after she paid a fine. Later in November, Blake was arrested for attempted to bribe bar staff. He had allegedly assaulted, Unfortunately, this is right before Amy's Back to Black European tour was set to kick off. Whether this was a part of the reason or not, Amy's opening night in Birmingham at the National Indoor Arena was anything but close to access, with record walkouts and bullying from the crowds. One comment from the Birmingham Mail said it was one of the saddest nights of my life. I saw supremely talented artists reduced to tears. Some we were on stage and unforgivably swearing at the audience. Others shows in dissimilarly, with reports later stating that she was unsteady on her feet, looked highly intoxicated throughout her show, and we canceled all further concerts, performances, and appearances again, advising the public and clamoring fans that her doctor had, "We recommend a complete rest." It seemed Amy did not take the doctor's orders, however. She was arrested on suspicion of interfering with her husband's bribery attempt, later claiming Gibbles all her husband's legal dramas that cost her to be unable to cope with her touring. Amy's woes did not make much of a negative impact on her album sales, however, with Black to Black going nearly 5 times platinum that year, becoming the best-selling album in the United Kingdom in 2000. AME heralded a new year full of new opportunities, a new year full of new accolades and new challenges. Some such challenges faced early on occurred in January, when a video surfaced of Amy smoking crack cocaine. After admitting to the authorities of her legal use of narcotics, she was not allowed passage to the US, which then meant she was not allowed entry to perform at the 2008 Grammy Awards, where she ultimately made music history when she became the first British female to win 5 Grammy Awards on the same night, including Best New Artist and Record of the Year for Rehab. She also has now tied with Beyoncé and Adele for most Grammy wins and one night. Throughout 2008, her marriage to Blake seems to be crumbling, with their families both not supporting their relationship. Blake was told to in the marriage by Amy's family, particularly her father Mitch, as well as his own family. Despite her touring team, her family recommending against it, Amy performed at The Rock in Rio Festival in Portugal in May 2008. The set wasn't a complete success due to her delayed arrival and voice issues, but the audience was highly receptive and encouraging. Amy performed 2 covers in her own original music, and overall the performance was applauded. Despite the ongoing recognition and rewards of her talent and power and music, Amy's erratic behavior continued, and her health and personal life continued to go downhill. At the Glastonbury Musical Festival in June that year, Amy pushed a fan during her performance, or at least appeared to. A video was circulated far and wide, showing Amy throwing a series of punches into the crowd. No charges were filed and Amy was not prosecuted. After the harrowing incident, Amy Winehouse returned to London and checked into a rehabilitation clinic, a move that many hoped would mark a turning point in her life. However, the road to recovery was far from straightforward. Her father, Mitch Winehouse, spoke to reporters about the severity of her condition, revealing that doctors had warned Amy she might need to wear an oxygen mask if she didn't stop abusing drugs. Despite these dire warnings, Amy seemed to pay little attention to the concerns voiced by her medical team, family, and friends. The grip of addiction was powerful, and Amy's struggle with it would continue to be a central theme in her life, even as those who cared about her desperately tried to intervene. By the end of 2008, the once passionate and tumultuous marriage between Amy and Blake Fielder Civil was all but over. The relationship, which had been marked by intense highs and lows, had deteriorated under the strain of their respective battles with substance abuse. In January 2009, Blake initiated divorce proceedings, citing Amy's infidelity as the reason for their split. This was a significant moment in Amy's life, as the dissolution of her marriage represented the collapse of a relationship that had been both a source of inspiration and pain. Despite their separation, both Amy and Blake would continue to be linked in the public eye, their tumultuous relationship emblematic of the darker side of fame. During the year following their separation, both Amy and Blake were seen with new love interests, but it was clear that neither had fully moved on from the other. For Amy, the end of her marriage coincided with a period of intense internal struggle. She was grappling not only with the pressures of her fame, but also with the deep emotional scars left by her personal life. At the height of her success, Amy had become a global sensation, celebrated for her unique voice and raw, honest songwriting. However, this fame came at a cost, and the infamy that followed her every move began to take its toll. The public scrutiny, combined with her personal demons, made it increasingly difficult for Amy to find peace. Tragically, on July 23, 2011, Amy was found unresponsive at her home in Camden, London. After years of battling alcohol and drug addiction, her life came to a sudden and heartbreaking end. When emergency services arrived, they discovered the body of a 27-year-old female, later confirmed to be Amy Winehouse. She was pronounced dead at the scene, and the news sent shockwaves through the music world and beyond. Amy's death marked her entry into the infamous 27 Club, a group of iconic musicians, artists, and actors who all died at the age of 27. This club, which includes names like Jimi Hendrix, Janis Joplin, Jim Morrison, and Kurt Cobain, became a symbol of the tragic intersection between immense talent and the destructive pressures of fame. In the weeks following her death, an autopsy revealed that Amy's official cause of death was accidental alcohol poisoning. Her blood alcohol level was found to be more than 5 times the legal drink-driving limit, a stark reminder of the severity of her addiction. The findings underscored the tragic irony of Amy's life. Despite her immense talent and the love that surrounded her, she was ultimately unable to escape the clutches of her demons. The world mourned the loss of a remarkable artist who had so much more to give, and her death was seen by many as a preventable tragedy, a life cut short far too soon. In the wake of Amy's passing, her family took steps to ensure that her legacy would have a lasting positive impact. On September 14, 2011, what would have been Amy's 28th birthday, the Amy Winehouse Foundation was launched. The charity was established by her family with a mission to prevent the effects of drug and alcohol abuse on today's youth. The foundation's work focuses on supporting, informing, and inspiring vulnerable and disadvantaged young people, helping them to reach their full potential. Through education, outreach programs, and support services, the foundation aims to provide young people with the tools they need to avoid the pitfalls that ensnared Amy. The launch of the foundation was a poignant moment for Amy's family and fans alike, offering a way to channel their grief into something constructive and hopeful. The Amy Winehouse Foundation has since become a beacon of hope for many young people struggling with addiction and other challenges. It serves as a reminder that while Amy's life was tragically short, her impact can continue to be felt in a positive way. The work of the foundation has helped to change lives, offering support to those who might otherwise have fallen through the cracks. This legacy of care and compassion is a fitting tribute to Amy, reflecting the kindness and generosity that those close to her knew well. In the years following her death, Amy Winehouse's music has continued to resonate with listeners around the world. Her albums, particularly Back to Black, have become timeless classics, celebrated for their raw emotion and honesty. Amy's voice, so full of pain and passion, speaks to the struggles that many people face, making her music both deeply personal and universally relatable. Her songs, filled with themes of love, heartbreak, and addiction, offer a window into her soul, allowing fans to connect with her on a profound level. This connection has ensured that Amy's star continues to shine brightly, even after her passing. Amy Winehouse is remembered not just for her extraordinary talent, but also for the vulnerabilities that made her so human. Her life story, marked by incredible highs and devastating lows, serves as a cautionary tale about the dangers of fame and the importance of mental health and addiction support. But it is also a story of resilience, creativity, and the enduring power of music. Despite the challenges she faced, Amy managed to create a body of work that continues to inspire and move people, a testament to her incredible gift. Today, Amy Winehouse is often cited as one of the most talented stars of the new millennium, a singer-songwriter who left an indelible mark on the music industry. Though she never got to fully realize her potential, the work she did produce has had a lasting impact, influencing countless artists and earning her a place among the greats. Amy's legacy is one of both brilliance and tragedy, a reflection of the complexities that defined her life. Through the efforts of her family, friends, and fans, Amy's story continues to be told, not just as a tale of what was lost, but as a reminder of the importance of supporting those who are struggling. Her music, her foundation, and the love that people still have for her ensure that Amy Winehouse will never be forgotten. Thanks for watching. Subscribe.